Connor, and he's from Ireland, 36 years old. And we basically met via Facebook. It was topic discussion about meditation. So we're very honored to have you here today, Connor. And the idea?
Yeah, great to be here. Yeah. We were speaking on the past group Vipassana
Yes.
via Facebook, weren't we? Yeah.
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 So basically, Vipassana is a very ancient style of meditation. And we have both interest and experience in Vipassana meditation. And today's talk is really to discuss the benefits of meditation and how it helps in your daily life once you have delved deep in order to, let's say, look at your mental health and improve your mental health. So I would say I'm an ambassador for meditation, just for people to be open, to look deep within and find some magic that lays within.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I wouldn't say I'm an ambassador. I would say I'm more just just a simple lay person who's just been on
Absolutely.
quite a considerable journey with regards to Buddhism, and especially in the technique of Vipassana, especially coming from a
Fantastic.
place like Ireland, in Dublin.
And where are you now? You are in Thailand?
Yeah, I'm in Thailand. I'm in Thailand now, in Phuket. So I'm in Phuket and Karon, and been in Thailand altogether for just about over a year, just over a year. So, but I came from Sydney. I was in Sydney there from May. So I'd done like a 1 year working holiday there, saved up a little bit of money, and then decided to just hit it hard here in terms of Vipassana over the next 6 months. So from May until probably around November, maybe December, see how it goes, So each month I'm doing a Vipassana course, So each month I'm staying here now until around November, December, doing a Vipassana course. And doing a Vipassana course, and this will be the interesting thing, okay? So doing a Vipassana course in each of the different elements, because Vipassana pertains to the elements of earth, water, wind, and fire. And depending on which technique you do, emphasizes the kind of element that you kind of focus on. And that's something that I've learned actually here on the past few months, just going to these different types of Vipassana retreats.
Excellent.
And I learned that the last retreat. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people won't know what Vipassana is, so we'll get into that in a moment. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you in your life to start practicing meditation?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, I'm from Dublin. So it's predominantly Catholic. It was when I was growing up, there was still the Troubles up in the north. Now I'm from the Republic, so two different countries. But there was still that very nationalist spirit in the country, and Catholicism, just another branch, Christianity, was very much enmeshed within that nationalistic sort of fervor for the troubles that were going on in the north, and it was still down the south too. So you had that very kind of, I would say, right wing Catholicism that was very much kind of nailed into your head. Like, we used to have the priest come into us regularly. We used to always go to our mass. We'd always do our morning prayers, things like that, and we would always kind of amalgamate that nationalism and Catholicism together. So not really the best place for Vipassana or Buddhism in terms of, getting to know it or touching base with it. It just wasn't really spoken about much. We touched on different religions, but they were never in depth. They were never actually,
Right.
gone into much detail on them. So as I got older, I suppose I started, as you do when you're a teenager, you start to question things. You start to kind of say, well, what's really going on here? And you look into more kind of, I don't know, esoteric kind of subjects, maybe perhaps different religions. You just become just generally just more experimental. Now, when I think I was 16, maybe 17, I was just kind of a very depressed teenager. I was pretty, like a lot of teenagers are, just kind of down in the dumps, whatever, think about things too much, hormonal, whatever it may be. So my father, who was kind of well read, he used to delve into a lot of different subjects. He provided me with a Zen book. So
Okay.
Japanese Buddhism. Well, it's not Japanese Buddhism. It comes from kind of China, but there's a lot of emphasis on Zen in Japan. And one of the weird things about it was, right, one of the first pages I opened said, you don't find Zen, Zen finds you, And that was
Yeah.
kind of like, well, that's a bit spooky, but okay. Let's
Yeah.
let's keep going, coincidences happen. And just as if you had saw something shiny in the riverbed and you stick your hand down to grab it and see what's there. Put the hand in and I just got dragged down the river. The river just pulled me in. The Zen Buddhist river, I don't know, maybe if you want to call it that. And that was it. There was no getting out. There was no getting out. The hook was in. I tried just about everything nearly at one stage to kind of just get it out of my head, all the different koans and stuff like that. And I was then, trying out a little bit of meditation here or there. And then just using a sort of like a topical sort of application for that really acute depression I had. I must say, I was pretty depressed. It was kind of like 9.5 out of 10, let's say. Yeah.
Okay. How old were you at the time?
At 16 or 17. At 16 or 17, I can't kind of be guessing now. It was around 20 years ago, anyway. Say, give or take. Left or right, 20 years. So yeah. So I started just kind of trying out some different meditation techniques. And I had like a small part-time job up at the local Tesco's in the town next to me, as you do probably when you're a kid at that age. And there was a particular meditation that I learned about from my father, who said that, because again, he's the one who introduced me to it, and he was kind of giving me some kind of guidance around it because he was a lot more educated on it than I was. So I was still very much a novice. And he said there was this sorcerer, this evil, dark sorcerer, who was looking to purify his past, his evil actions or whatever. He's trying to, pay back some debt. So he goes up to the monastery and he asks the priests, he says, or the monks, he says, hey, look, I've done some really bad things. I'm an evil, dark sorcerer. What should I do? So the Zen monks say, or maybe, I don't know, it could be Indian monks, but whatever. They say, okay, how about you build big towers with big stones and bricks? How about that? And when you build the towers, all you do is pick up the brick. You don't have any concepts in your head. You simply do the action and you keep the mind clear. And that will purify your mind and release you from those evil deeds, or at least release you from those evil mindsets. Source was like, okay, must be done. Let's do it. So as he's stacking brick by brick by brick by brick, he gets one brick, puts it down, and that was the last brick. He never put another brick back up. He had been building all these towers, but that was the last one. Boom, he got it. Became enlightened. So I said, okay, I work in Tesco's. I stack shelves. Maybe I'm not a dark evil sorcerer, but I'm a shelf packer. I mean, it's kind of the same. At least to the point where you pick up, boxes and you just got to put them on a shelf time and time again. Like, it never ends. People consume it, you have to replace it. So I said, okay, why not? So I started to pick up the boxes. And I started to basically just feel it in my hands, watch the movement as it goes up, placing it down on the shelf. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And I'm not joking. I'm really serious here. I was working, and I even remember the oil I was working on. I was working on the specialties oil, which is the pasta, Mexican fajita kits, and things like that. I was on the Mexican fajita starter kits. For anyone who doesn't know, fajitas are like a Mexican food, and they have these boxes called I even remember to make Old El Paso fajita starter kits. And I placed the box down, this fajita starter kit. And all of a sudden, during the meditation, I just stopped. And I said, in all of existence, of all this great kind of universe that's around us, the stars and the moon, everything's going on here, this sort of miracle of life, this big complex thing. All that I can see right before me now, all existence though has to offer me at this very moment right now is to witness fajita starter kits. I said, this doesn't make any sense. And I swear, bang, it happened like that. Everything froze. Everything just, literally stopped. Like time itself just stopped and says, it makes sense. I said, I think the last thought was, it makes sense. It makes sense because it makes no sense. You had synthesis, or was it thesis and antithesis that came together and made synthesis. And I had seen a glimpse, I'm no joke, of a timeless, ceaseless void where there was no time, no material matter, no mental formations. And one of the most striking aspects of it, which was terrifying, was that there was no self there. It was a coreless sort of, I can only describe it as maybe like gas. You know, the way gas is kind of shimmering, you can see it but you can't touch it, and it's ethereal, and I don't know how to really explain it. It's unexplainable. So don't take these words even as gospel. There is absolutely no way, but there was no self there. But at the same time, it wasn't nothing either. So it was a void. And it was nothingness, but not the way your ego would conceptualize. Does that make sense? Do you get,
I
maybe
get what you're
maybe
saying.
yeah. So there was no more becoming. There was no more, as we'd say in Buddhism, there's no more bhava, which is Pali for becoming. Pava, so I think it's called Pava. Forgive me, my Pali is terrible. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Pava. And that means that there's just no more, there's just no more karma there to produce the next frame. And it was like a memory. This was like a memory. It's kind of the best way to describe the best people to describe it were actually the Japanese, the Satori experience. It was like a Satori, a major, major Satori experience. And I remember I said, oh, and it's like, and this thing is, I suppose you could use the word primordial. Now, the Theravadins will just freak if you say that, right? I mean, I'm kind of more in line with Theravadin anyway. Nowadays, I'm more or less kind of in a Theravadin sort of mode of Buddhism. Still respect Mahayana a lot in Zen, but it was like a primordial sort of essence. Always was, always is, and always will be. It's untouchable. Nothing can get to it. Not even a self can get to it. That's how beyond this was.
Oh.
So yeah, that was another distinguishing hallmark. A very, very, and when I came, I was scared out of my wits, by the way. You're like 16 or 17 years old.
Yeah.
This is like the ultimate sort of like rug being pulled under your feet. Think about the most shocking thing you found out. Thing that shocked you the most. Now multiply that by 100 million. Like, so anyway, I kind of jumped out of it. I can still remember just being absolute. Being honest, it was quite a traumatic experience. It was a very, very traumatic experience. It left me absolutely just, I suppose, in a way, it left me really just kind of destitute. You know, you hear so much about awakening, and it was beautiful, and it was this, and it was that, and I was seeing angel. You know, I was kind of waiting for that garden variety sort of moment. And let's not forget, I was still kind of Christian anyway. I was still only really delving into Zen. Like, it wasn't like a major thing, but I was within the teeth though. Certainly, I mean, I just couldn't stop thinking about the philosophy, but I wasn't fully won over, at least from what I can remember.
Okay.
And I just kind of realized it. I said, "Oh my God, the Buddha was right. The Buddha was right," and that's when I totally just converted to a Buddhist, and I just had to find out more, despite it being absolutely traumatizing. It took me a long, long, long time to digest that. It took me
Right.
quite a while. It took me nearly what,
Did you have
maybe
anyone other than your father to talk to about this? Or did you talk to about this with your father at the time?
Oh well, yeah, I did. I actually did speak it. I just speak about it with my father. Now, my father was obviously like, okay, he's gone a little bit off the edge here. This is meant to make him better,
Yeah.
not make him completely insane. He went from just moaning and whinging about life to talking about, primordial voids where nobody exists and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because my father was pretty like sky is blue, grass is green. He was an intellectual, but he wasn't, a spiritualist or whatever you could say like that. So he was kind of like, oh my God, jeez. And plus, you're living in a pretty, like I said, it was kind of still kind of a hardline Christian, not fundamental, not crazy like Saudi Arabia, but it's still kind of like,
Mm.
if you had said that to people, they were like, yeah, sure, okay, okay, let's get you to the people who care, which is the mental hospital, and have you taken off. So what could I do? I was just stuck right in the middle, like, and I had just got this unrelenting urge to join the army, or join the army, join the monastery. The reason I said army there is because my father had different plans for me. He said,
Okay.
under no circumstances are you joining the monastery. You're going to join the army. Because at that time, I was a bit of a vagabond. I had kind of ditched school. I was kind of hanging around the wrong crowd. I wasn't a saint. And let me just make this clear. I'm not here to proselytize that, I'm second coming of Jesus or something like that. No, I'm just Gary and John down the bar. If you meet me, I have no etiquette in that sense of being some master guru or yogi or, Buddha. But my father said, no, you're going to straighten yourself out in the army. You're not going to do it in a monastery in Thailand. And of course, when you're 17 years old, you're still, you can't just run out of the country.
Mm.
So after a certain amount of time, kind of came to, went off to the army, but it never left me. It just never, ever left me. It changed my whole life completely. And now it's at a stage where it's a lot more digestible. It's a lot more matured. If you can kind of think about it, it's kind of like a big lump of precious rock that gets blasted out of the bedrock, and you've got the gold or the gems inside that rock, but now you need to clean it off, break off the excess, and
Hmm.
give it a good polish. And that's kind of what I'm doing here to some extent now.
Yeah. So,
I'm still
Connor,
questioning it. Yeah.
how long did you serve
Go
in the
ahead.
army, and what did you do?
Well, basically, it's just a grunt, just ground grunt, private. Done 6 months basic training. Well, actually, you could argue I've done really nearly 9 months, 8 months basic training because I got kicked back due to a penoidal abscess. Then spent around 8 years in the army. I think 8 years and 63 days or something to be exact. And to be quite honest with you, the military life is quite Buddhist, or at least Zen Buddhist. You've got to stand straight. The corporal or sergeant would say, "Hey, pick a brick on the wall. Don't move your eyes. Don't move your head, and just look at the brick in the wall." I mean, there's a lot of meditative aspects about it. When you're firing
Hmm.
your weapon, don't be complicating it. Don't be overthinking. When an order is given, you don't think, you just do. So there's sort of that inadvertent Vipassana
Yes.
aspect to it. And then I went off abroad. I was out in Africa. I was out there by Sudan and Chad. I was doing an emergency response unit out there. I was in an APC unit. Learned all different types of military craft, like, I don't know, nuclear, biological, urban warfare, heavy
Right.
weapons, hand-to-hand combat, just
Oh,
things
wow.
like that, and learning how to work in a regimented unit and team, and it's awfully disciplined, very
Okay.
disciplined. Yeah.
Okay. So, Connor, you had this experience in
Yeah.
your teens, and then you went to the army. At this time, were you meditating at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was still dabbling in meditation here or there, not to the extent it would be now.
Yeah.
But I'll be quite honest, I was quite lazy about the event. I was quite lazy in the sense that I mean, I was going to go to the monastery and that, but once I joined kind of the army, and it kind of gets put to the background. You never stop thinking about it, but it goes somewhere to the background. that urge to join the monastery kind of diminished. Nothing lasts forever, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really get on the cushion as much as I probably should have. And again, like I said, it was quite a traumatizing experience. It took me a lot of time to get comfortable with that. I was not ready for that in a lot of ways. I wasn't in a culture that provides a sort of comfortable place to discuss it either. I was drinking. I'll be honest, like I said, I'm not here to prosecute. I was drinking, I was out partying, I was being a maniac. And I think a lot of that was in due to sort of trying to, what is it in the Matrix where he kind of takes what's the pill where the guy wants to go back to the Matrix? There's a red pill and there's a blue
Red
pill.
pill.
There's
Yeah.
pills. He wants to go back. I suppose I
Okay.
was kind of doing that my own way. Like the alcohol was that pill to go back, and the drinking and the drugging was that kind of way to get me into the Matrix again and just get it out of my kind of head. But of course, I was destroying myself in the process, you know. So yeah, I wasn't really doing the things that I should have been doing. Took a lot of
Okay.
time to process. Only recently, in the past couple of years, that's happened. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I suppose now, knowing what you know now, all those things had to happen, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, the things like going out and just acting like an idiot, like going out drinking, I don't think that bit had to happen. And I did.
But
I
it gives
think,
you something to
I think,
reflect on, your behavior. And if you were doing great things, maybe you wouldn't have questioned your behavior, and you would have been, maybe not led to the monastery as you have done now.
yeah, well, I mean, everything's kind of karma. And that's one thing that you kind of start to realize. I mean, your karma's still playing out your kind of destiny to some extent, if I can put it that way, poetically. Like, I mean, you're doing the things that you're doing. Like, yeah, sure. Look, at the end of the day, there was a lot of factors involved. A lot of factors involved to that awakening moment as a kid, working as just a shop boy, you know?
Yeah.
And the things that happened after, I suppose, it kind of, I don't know, when it happened, I think it just let off sort of like a karmic bomb. Just things just went haywire. And it's, here's the thing, right? It's quite common, I suppose, or I mean, it's sort of in mainstream idea and thought that when you get kind of one of these events or these awakening experiences, that your life is just gonna be like roses after. You're gonna be all happy and you're gonna go on this nice kind of lovely trip through
Yeah.
reality to get to the final gate. Absolutely not. That was
No.
just the very beginning of a very long, painful journey out of the dark woods. There is some things that happened to happen that kind of came automatic with it though. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I wasn't like walking around like some holier than thou monk or saint. I mean,
Mhm.
none of that. I wasn't some shining beacon of, some kind of with a constant smile or not. Like, I was still quite rough. I came from a rough kind of background. I still had a rough sort of edge to me, and I was definitely. If you had met me in that time, you would say, "There's no way this guy could have had that experience. He's just too rough." Because a working
Yeah.
class guy in Dublin, just that's kind of the way you are. And I kind of had that shaft, but you don't kill. That's one thing that I noticed. That kind of just went out, and I did join the army, but I went abroad and I did work on youth foreign response. Thankfully, that never came to be where I had to take another life. You know, God bless for that. But no, things like killing, lost complete identity with the self. No, of course, I still had the gravity of an ego that still
Mm.
pulls me back in
Yeah.
to that kind of belief system. But ultimately, that idea of a self just wasn't there anymore. I could never say, this is me. I could
Hmm.
never say reality was real anymore.
Yeah.
Because this reality that we're living in, this samsara thing, it was just an illusion. So that had completely changed in my mindset. Now I was completely, there's no self, no permanent self at least, and that reality is ultimately nothing but a magician's trick, which the Buddha actually does say himself in the, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Pema Sutta. I think it's Phema. It's one of the suttas where the Buddha actually discusses in his own way what we would probably call quantum foam today, where it
Okay.
literally says all reality is just bubbling up like bubbles and it just pops. An event happens and it goes away. Nothing's permanent. So it's just like this arise and like open up a Coke bottle, shaking it, opening up, all the bubbles arise. That's what reality is. All these things that are happening. So yeah, that was really kind of one of the hallmarks that kind of got burnt into me after that.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Okay, so for the people who are watching and they don't know what Vipassana is, all these courses that are available,
Yeah.
um, can you tell us about when you did your first Vipassana course and what it entailed and what was involved?
Okay. So basically, right. Like I said, things only really started to things started only heat up. They didn't get any easier. Things started to get harder after that event, year by year, until I hit 23. Okay, and this is how I got introduced to Vipassana. I was living with my friend, and he had a friend who was a Vipassana practitioner, and we kind of knew each other through this friend of mine, and he kind of understood some of the complications I was having in terms of being kind of negative, being pessimistic, being angry, being depressed, this, that, and the other. I said to him, I've been down every avenue. I've tried just about everything to try and come out of this sort of mindset. Everything is just kind of getting worse, not better. And he said, how much would you be willing to come out of that? I said, well, I mean, I'm at the point where I'll do just about everything. I'll give you my right arm. He goes, would you be able to sit down for 10 days and not say nothing and have absolutely no contact with anybody, not have a phone and not have any sort of entertainment whatsoever? And I'd be like, maybe I'm not that desperate, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll do anything, but not that. And I was kind of like,
Yeah.
I was kind of like, what? And he kind of goes, well, would you do it? And me kind of being a little bit macho or whatever, I was, yeah, I'll do it, I'll do it. And he goes, okay then. Goes, so he sends me out the forms or there, he sends me out the link. It's the SN Goenka School, which is probably one of the most popular, prominent, well-known Vipassana schools out there. Even maybe most people don't know what Vipassana really is. That's kind of the major school anyway. So that was out in Wales.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, okay, yeah, it was out in Wales. Great centre, by the way. If you're going to do Vipassana and you're within traveling distance of it, go. It's a great place. And funny
Is
enough,
that the
my
one in
father,
Hereford? In Hereford, is it?
yes, Hereford, that's the one, out in Hereford. Correct. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Hereford in Wales. It's in the middle of a sheep's field. So it's the perfect place to clear your mind. Yeah. But yeah, my father, he was also very much affected by depression. He had a very aggressive depression too, very acute depression. So he decided to come out with me as well. Now he's passed
Oh,
away about 5 years ago, but we both sat our first 10 days together. It's a bit weird,
that's
you know, you're
amazing.
walking by your yeah, it was amazing, but it's very surreal because you're walking past your father, the guy who raised you, gonna help bring you into this world, and you're not even looking at him in the face. You're not saying hello. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was unbearably horrible. Let me just put it that way. My first Vipassana, I got to Hereford. We got in there. They give you the introduction. They're going to give you what the technique's about. They let you know kind of what you're going to be doing, everything like that. They give you the sort of walkthrough and that. And then after a couple hours, whatever it is, they bang a gong. And they tell you when we bang this gong, it's nobody talks. And I was just like, oh my God. I said, I'm really gonna do this. I said, oh man, they banged the gong. I just kind of felt kind of sicky. I felt really nervous about it. Everyone else, and you look at everyone else, and they look cool and calm, and you're just going, oh my God, like where am I? So yeah, then it began. That's when hell started to begin, because day by day it just got perpetually worse. Like they start you off kind of easy with the first day. You kind of start off with anapanasati, which is Pali for breathe in, breathe out. You just focus on the breath. That's sharpening the knife, as they say.
Yeah.
Getting you concentrated, getting you focused, and getting you to be very, very sensitive to sensation. I won't go into how to do the technique, but I'll give you kind of summary of the technique. Of course, I'm not really a teacher or anything like that, but that's just to start off.
Yeah. Let
So
me
after
just add
3
in
days of that,
also. Let me just
yeah,
add in. So with this course, the you have your meditation, but also you waking up at 4 a.m., right?
yeah,
So you wake up at
yeah,
4
you're waking
a.m.
up at 4 a.m. Yeah,
You start your meditating, and one of
yeah,
the other factors is your food. Okay, so you fast from 12 p.m. till 6 a.m. the next morning. So that means you have
6 to,
breakfast.
yeah, 6 a.m. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you basically have breakfast at 6:30. You have your dinner around 11:30 a.m. And afternoon, after 12 o'clock, there's no more food. And this can be difficult to begin with, but it helps. It's all part of the meditation. So you have
yeah,
this new discipline, right, of overcoming your hunger or dealing with hunger.
yeah, yeah. You've got quite a shift in your diet, your timings, yeah, things like that. I mean, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I suppose like I managed that okay. I mean, to the degree that I was kind of already doing pretty much that anyway. But yeah, you got to get up at 4 in the morning. You got to get up and then you got to start meditating. But that is the most, by the way, for anybody who's interested in getting into meditation or is meditating, the morning meditation is the most important meditation. After you have your drink of water, use the loo, meditate. Why? Because that's the freshest time to start the day before you make any new sankharas. And what are sankharas? Sankharas are the deep reactions that we have, or that we've built up, that make us react in anger, make us react with greed, jealousy, ill will, and hatred. It's what we call sankharas. So doing the morning meditation, you prevent those sankharas from arising, or well, at least creating new, sorry, not arising, but creating new sankharas. And yeah, you start the day off fresh like that. And then yeah, you go on then till 11 o'clock. you get your lunch, and that will be your last meal of the day. And it's all vegetarian. So don't expect any KFC there or anything like that. It's off the table. It's all veg. And that took a little bit of getting used to for me because I was very
Yeah.
much into the gym. I was very active with weightlifting. So I would have been eating a lot of protein, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I was just starving for the rest of the day because I was, like I said, I was really into athletics and that was pretty hard. And yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the schedule, and you have to do 3 mandatory group sits a day. You do the mandatory sit in the morning, the afternoon, and then the evening. And then you do kind of a brief group sit then before you close off the day, but it's only a short one, it's around 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, and all that time then in between, you're either meditating in the hall or you're meditating in your cell. I meditate in a cell, or you meditate in your room. So yeah, that's kind of your day. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I know, Connor, so one of the things they ask you to really commit to is that you stay the full duration. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
basically signed up for prison, yeah.
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 And so did you have any days in particular where you really felt that you need to leave there, or did you go into escape mode at all?
Did I have any feelings that I wanted to leave there?
I mean,
I
on
wanted
they
to
have
jump
certain
into a
days.
mountain. Yeah, yeah. I mean, every day, that's the thing. Like I said, it progressively just got harder and harder. I mean, I thought I would have been kind of like used to a lot of pain and consideration, like of kind of my occupation at that time, and kind of coming from a kind of Dublin. It can be a rough kind of city, kind of rough background, but nice people, lovely people, but it can be a bit rough. But this was just a whole different ball game of pain. Like first, like I said, so first 3 days you're just doing anapanasati, and you're just getting the focus, getting the breathing, getting in tune with the body and sensitivity or whatever. Then day 4, after 3.5 days, you start the Vipassana. That's when you start the Vipassana. And then you start to feel the sensations on the body. I won't go into depth about that, how you do that, but because you're so concentrated now, you can feel like all these little pins and needles going on over you. And that's when it started to get really hot. Every time I would go down and go up and go down and start to feel the sensations, I would just be in physical agony. I mean, I have to admit it. Like, I'm not trying to put anybody off. I'm not saying that will be your experience. Most people feel a little bit of discomfort. But in my case, probably because I was so kind of just depressed, angry, and had all those sort of what we would call in Buddhism defilements, or the kalasas, these defilements, that I was getting a lot of things coming to the surface in my mind. Extreme sort of emotions, extreme sort of mental states in terms of just, kind of fear, anxiety, tension. But the more that kept coming up in my mind, the more pain would increase in my body. The legs felt like they were just on fire. Like I had been sitting in a boiling hot vat of water, or just someone was just pouring this, you know, acid. And you know what the worst thing about it is? You can't move. You've got the Pali word, forgive me again. I'm sure maybe people are screaming at me here for my Pali if they're aware of it, is aditant or
Aditan,
aditanta.
yeah.
Yeah, it means you can't move for 1 hour. And when you're in writing and physical and mental pain and you can't move for 1 hour, but I was determined not to move. It's kind of like, that movie Fight Club.
Right.
where Brad Pitt is pouring alkaline on the guy's hand, and he's grabbed his wrist and he won't let him go, and he has to kind of sit there with the pain and agony. That's exactly how I felt. Just like the movie says, don't go to your happy place. Don't try to think positive thoughts. Don't try to wish it away. Don't try to go to that place. No, just feel the pain. And that's exactly what in Vipassana you're meant to do. That is the essence right there of Vipassana. Reality as it is, not as you want it to be. And that's not just the essence of Vipassana, that is the essence of Buddhism. And you come to meet that reality in Vipassana. That is where mind and matter now start to come into contact on a very subtle level. And that is also, ironically, the purification aspect of Vipassana. That pain, that agony. After 7 days, I had just got to breaking point. I had gone up to the teacher and I'd say, look, I'm going insane. I'm cracking up. Obviously, I didn't say it to him like that. I was a lot worse, probably, and a lot worse mood. He said, just deflate, relax, take a breath, go in, don't do any more meditation, just leave it now. Tomorrow, just do the 3 sits. That's all you do. Just do 3 sits. Because at that time, I think I was doing like 10 or 11 hours of meditation. Like, it's pretty intense. Well, you don't have to, but I mean, I was doing some at least 8 hours a day. And I just said, you know what? I hate 7 days. On the 8th day, I woke up and that's what happened. 8th day, I was still angry, tense, and rotten. Had nightmares all that night in the 7th night. 8th day, I just said, you know what? I just don't care anymore. I said, I've been through everything now. I hate this place. I hate all
Hate
these
the teacher.
these
Yeah.
the teacher. I mean, on the 10th day, I can't wait. I just couldn't bear the place. I said I hate the smell of the horse manure and everything. I said I'm going. I said then something popped into my head. I said, you know what? I'm just going to be as angry as I possibly can. I said, I've never tried to just be as angry as I can. I've always tried to nullify it or remove it or whatever and this and that. So I walked up to the meditation hall and I said, I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to seethe. And as soon as I sat down on the cushion, what happens? Bang. Voila. All the anger and hatred just dissolved and was just replaced with this scream of just ecstasy and energy, like a shimmering, glittering, sort of unworldly bliss. And I sat there, and instead of kind of getting a smile, I just this kind of, I don't know, I just felt like I had a deep inverted smile just going all the way down. But it was just this deep abiding. I was kind of just felt like my whole face was just melting down. And I just sat there in just serenity. I had never felt so much physical and mental ecstasy. I'm not joking you. I'm not joking. It was better than sex. Sex is actually
Sure.
painful. It's dukkha. And that's what the Buddha calls that type of pleasure, sensual pleasure. It's
Mm.
dukkha. He says it feels good, but it's actually a milder form of pain. So
Sure.
yeah, I sat there for the next 2 days just in heaven. And I never looked back after that. I was converted, as they say. When the 11th day came, time we had to leave. I kind of went, I don't want to leave. I kind of had to, I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go back out there. I had walked in thinking this was the most crazy place in the world. And on the 11th day, I felt like this was the most sanest place in the world. And
Yeah.
I, I just couldn't believe it. I'm sorry for anybody. My internet is shot here. There's lots of storms going on in Thailand, so please forgive me if my internet's cutting out. But yeah, no, just felt like the man on the moon, just high as a kite. Get in, meet my father, and he's absolutely miserable. He had a completely different
Really?
experience. Yeah, he
Oh,
felt
wow.
like he was even worse. But you know what? Funnily enough, it took him 3 weeks to get all the pieces back together. And you know what he said to me? And I'll be honest with you here. And it's probably heavy, but he did say it to me. He said, you know what? After I think about a year or two, he said, I would have been hanging from a tree if it wasn't for Vipassana. And I even noticed after a few weeks when he got himself kind of back into alignment, he was, he says he never had that type of depression ever again. And neither did I. My depression was effectively cured to that point. I'd tried everything. I'd been down all the typical avenues. I'd done everything to try and escape. And that was the only relief I ever felt. So I've now done 6 Vipassana courses, and I just recently finished my 6th Vipassana in Cambodia. And I've done my first service in Cambodia. And I've never looked back. Never looked back.
That's amazing, Connor. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, sure.
It's a lot of things you've said is somewhat relatable, but
Yeah.
the practice, the proof is in the pudding. When you put in it is hard work doing nothing. It can be hard, but
It's the hardest work in the world, actually.
yeah.
To a point. Yeah.
But the fruits are so pure, huh? And there's no questioning now. Like, would you say how are you living now with being tooled? It doesn't mean nothing bad will happen, but it's the way you deal with it now, right?
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Look, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're yeah, the devil or the Buddha or Jesus or whatever. Doesn't matter. Like we all go through the same experiences in life. We get ups, we get downs, we have upsetting things that happen to us, we have happy things that happen to us, but the way that we react to those things, as we would say, the things that kind of happen to us are our karma, but we don't react to our good karma and we don't react to our bad karma. That doesn't mean we become robots. That's not what we as Buddhists say. But we don't overreact. We always have a break. We always feel the sensations in our body, because always remember, whenever you have some sort of mental pain or emotion, even a good one, you'll always have a sensation that arises in your body. Always be aware of that, because the mind and body are in tune. You can't really everyone says in Buddhism, just observe your anger. This is kind of mainstream sort of, oh, just
Mm.
sit there, observe the anger, and breathe through your nose. Like,
No.
it's pop culture Buddhism, but that's not, there's a lot more
Yeah,
going
there's a
on
lot of
to
that going on nowadays. People are got apps for meditation at home, 20 minutes a day. It helps. I believe it helps, and it could be the beginning of your journey. But me personally, to go deep in, these centers are very useful because you have guidance.
Yeah.
And our minds are very similar on how they work. And
Yeah.
the reaction to the body that those thoughts have are also similar or the same. So a technique is very useful to have um, dealing with some of the tougher situations in life. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure. Like I said, you instead of just observing this kind of abstraction called anger or depression or sadness or whatever in your mind, which and observing that and this abstraction, you start to observe the sensations in your body. You start to flip it around. You flip it to the other side of the coin, and you start to focus on these sensations arising in your body. You stop, and here's another thing: you stop identifying with ephemeral phenomenon. What do I mean by ephemeral phenomenon? Phenomenon that comes into existence and comes out of existence. Everything in the universe is impermanent. Physics is just proving that more and more by the day. You stop clinging to things the way you used to then as well, because you've got this non-reactivity within you. You start to just become a lot more lighter. You start to become a lot more happier. And I must say, you start to clean up your act. You become adverse to lying. You don't want to do anything that will kind of, uh, dirty the waters, if I can
Yes.
say that, your
Yes.
mind. You become more generous. You start to become more happy when you start to give. You start to become more happy when you make other people happy, and your whole just perception changes. And you're doing love and kindness as well at the end of each section. It's just called bhavna,
Yeah. Yeah.
metta bhavna, which is the gloss that you kind of put on after you've rubbed down the defilements in your mind. Because I always kind of consider passing to be sort of like, you're grinding down the defilements or grinding down the wood, cleaning
Yeah.
it up and then put the gloss on it
Varnishing.
after you're
Yeah.
done. Yeah, polishing. That's the meta aspect to it. And nicer things. And it is true. They say that better things start to happen to you if you can keep it up for a year. You clean up your act, you clean up your morality, you start to behave yourself. Things do start to come a lot more to you positively.
And your
A lot of
desires change as well, right? So things that you thought you thought were important in your life, or you need to achieve this, they lose their value or their strength because those desires were somewhat coming from an insecurity, or you know so these type of things, they start to just fall into place, right?
yeah, they just start to fall into place. These things just start to things. I don't know what it is, but the less you try to control something, the less you try to control life, the more life just puts it all together for you. You kind of just take your hands off the wheel,
Yeah.
which is kind of scary. Like, when you're riding a bike
Yeah.
and you don't, and you let go and you're kind of afraid when you're a kid, but then you kind of just, oh, I'll just do it. And then the bike just goes itself. That's kind of what it's like. And things just kind of play out. And you learn. This is what you learn. Life is living you. You're not living it.
Nice.
Do you get what I mean?
Nice.
And when you let life just live life, it just happens itself. That could be a tricky bit too, you know. But yeah, for sure, for sure.
And so now moving forward, do you have the same friends that you had in the past before your practice, or um, do you find it difficult, or what are the differences in your social element of life?
Oh well, I mean, yeah, that's a good question actually. So, I suppose the people that you start, the people that I would have hung out with, maybe my I'm being so kosher, Um, obviously, if you're a negative kind of person, you kind of attract similar type of people, like, you know what I mean? Birds of a feather flock together. And when you start to become more and more in depth or more in touch with what we call the Dharma in Buddhism, the more nicer and friendlier you start to see people and meet people, because you're on a different vibration. I don't want to get all new age here. I don't want to kind of get all this, but yeah, definitely when you're giving off different vibrations, it's kind of like, here's a good analogy, right? It's kind of like radio signals. Where like a radio, you've got your FM or whatever, your AM, and on the FM, you've got you tune it a certain way, you'll pick up that frequency of that radio broadcast. The same thing happens with us as humans. We can only kind of replicate ourselves. And when you look at this new transformation, you start to realize, oh yeah, I'm kind of like that radio. I just tune into a different frequency. And I start to draw in different sounds, different people, just like you would tune in on a radio. You tune into a different channel, it's a different broadcaster, it's a different host. You meet different people, different music, different this, different that. And you just start to tune into a better frequency. And And the thing is, you'll notice as well that the kind of really dark, or because God, I used to know some, like, I'll be honest with you, like, and you can done here is just to brag or to boast or whatever like that. Like, I'm not doing that, but I used to know some pretty dangerous people. Like, people who were, I don't want to say some of the stuff that they do. Like, these people you wouldn't want to really cross. But looking back on it now, from the mindset, I was thinking, how could I have met anybody else? Thinking the way I do, feeling the way I do. Like, how can you meet anything positive when you're just running on this purely other sort of algorithm of horror shell? And you start to just pick up with different people. And that's not to say, like, again, I'm not here to say I'm a saint. I've still got my own inner battles. I still get angry. I still want to bang the computer when, the internet goes, the silly little things. You're stuck in traffic and you might have to still take a breath. But and this is the thing, even when you do get angry, even when you do get a little bit sad, which gets rarer and rarer if you practice daily, you'll start to notice that your anger just diminishes. It feels kind of hollow. Your anger kind of just feels hollowed out. It just doesn't feel like
the fuel is not there. The feeling might be momentarily, but there's no fuel which is driving it and losing the balance of the mind. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's actually what the Buddha says. By doing this sort of technique and this practice, you're taking away the fuel to keep that fire burning. So when you take away the fuel, what happens to the fire? It burns less strong. It burns for less, and it's not as strong. Yeah. And that's exactly what you're dealing with the Vipassana. And you just find yourself getting angry for less amounts of time until you get to the point, like, things that used to just drive me insane. Like, man, all someone had to do with me was just say the slightest off remark. We're living in social media land now. It's nonstop things that annoy you on social media. But now I just kind of like, I don't even really react to that. You're kind of like, even today, because I'm on some Buddhist groups, and some people just come out with just some very kind of nasty stuff or, aggressive stuff. They just go like, not even getting into it. Whereas before, they'd be like, that all kind of goes to the waste.
Even having a strong opinion is a reaction. And it's, you have your emotional reaction, and that has an effect, so it's better just to not even be so opinionated, and I think that happens naturally.
Yeah, and that kind of it's good. What you start to find is just these are all just natural processes from just getting in tune with the meditation But you can't just meditate either. You've got to be practicing. I've always kind of compared, I don't know if any of you have done like Thai boxing or stuff, or been in martial arts, or and like that. I used to do like a lot of martial arts, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu and weight training and things like that. Very, very active physically. And it's kind of like, if you're a Buddhist and you don't meditate, or you don't practice morality, like, being behaved and speaking right, not lying, not cheating, not stealing, things like that. It's kind of like a boxer. If you're only, say, studying the theory of boxing, and you're going to the gym and you're hitting the bag, but you don't go and box in a ring, it's kind of the equivalent of being a Buddhist and not meditating. You learn about Buddhism, you do this, you do that, but you never actually get down on the cushion and meditate.
Yeah.
Or like being a
Yeah.
boxer, maybe you go into the ring and you box, but you don't train outside. You don't practice properly outside of the ring, so your practice just deteriorates. Same thing with Buddhism. You've got to constantly be making sure you're doing the right things off the meditation mat, and then you've got to make sure that you're doing the right thing uh, on the meditation mat too. So everything's going hand in hand. Yeah. Sorry,
Fantastic,
I got
Connor.
probably lost there. It's going to give an
No,
analogy
no,
there. Maybe,
that's
yeah, it's a bit
that's all
messy,
good.
but you get what I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Connor. Thank you so much for sharing and discussing about Buddhism, meditation,
Sure.
and for anyone
Anytime.
that is interested in learning about this meditation technique,
Yeah.
there'll be a link in the description, and it's www.dhamma.org, which is DHAMMA.org. And these centers are all over the world. So you can find one locally pretty much wherever you are in the world. And it's highly recommended. It works on a donation payment base. So you do not
Yep.
have to pay before you go, but as you are leaving, and if you give what you feel, whatever you feel to give, and it's an exchange. It's an exchange of energy, and it's open to everyone. There's no religion involved in this practice. Okay, so if
No.
you are a practicing Christian, a practicing Muslim, and you want to understand how your mind is working, and get to in touch with yourself, this will not interfere with your religious beliefs. It is more of a science than anything, and that
Yep.
takes you into the spiritual world. Okay, so the link will be in the description. Connor, once again, thank you very much. Okay, and we are going to say goodbye.
Yep.